Great. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Eichenberger, the current WEF president, and just wanted to welcome you to the annual WEF Business Meeting. This meeting is open to all of our members and is provided to give you an update on the state of the Federation, present our annual financial report, and provide an opportunity to hear from our incoming president, Ifeanyi Obenor, on WEF's new mission and vision and her plans for the coming year. Joining me today.
These things fit pretty good. They're going to shrink up too small.
Joining me today are our WEF Treasurer, Keith Hobson, and WEF President-elect, Ifeanyi Obenor. I'd also like to recognize some of our other partners along the way here. Steve Drangsholt, our Speaker of the House of Delegates, and Amy Corvo, our Committee Leadership Council. Frankly, WEF's nothing without our members, and we could not have accomplished any of the items I'll be presenting on this year without the support of our member associations, our committee volunteers, and all of you. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say a big thank you to the rest of my fantastic board who's been helping carry me through this year and help get everything accomplished. And I just want to say what a year it's been. We've had a rough couple of years here going through the pandemic, but now as we're coming out, WEF's really hit the ground running. We've been holding our world-class conferences in person throughout this year, providing opportunities for all of you, our members, to come together, to connect, share our knowledge, network, and continue to drive our industry forward. New this year was our first annual Public Health and Water Conference. We held this conference in conjunction with EPA and CDC to highlight some of the work we've been doing on wastewater disease surveillance for protection of public health. WEF's been working with the CDC to help develop, manage, and provide training for a national network of water utilities, public health agencies, and laboratories participating in wastewater-based disease surveillance, which involves the testing of wastewater to evaluate the presence of pathogens among the population. Wastewater-based disease surveillance has been used to study the presence of trends in coronavirus infections. We saw a big surge in this coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're able to track that through our communities. And it's seen as an increasingly valuable tool during, as we're hopefully on the tail end of the COVID pandemic, but then also looking at some of our future public health research. Some of the recent ones that have come out that we've been able to use this for are tracking monkeypox and even polio in parts of the country here. So CDC is working with other federal agencies and entities such as WEF to establish the National Wastewater Surveillance System, or the NWSS, which is the first government-led wastewater surveillance program in the United States. The system will involve a network of wastewater facilities, state and local health departments, laboratories, which WEF is helping to coordinate. Our work under this partnership is being led by WEF staff, Anna Marotta, and supported by our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Andrew Sanderson. And this includes supporting CDC in the development, dissemination, and adoption of guidance and best practices for the prevention and control of infectious diseases within our water and wastewater sector, developing the network for wastewater-based disease surveillance with a focus on information sharing and problem solving, targeting frontline wastewater and public health personnel with training and surveillance activities and advanced understanding of the spread of disease in our communities. And finally, implementing projects that pilot new approaches and technologies in wastewater-based disease surveillance. As WEF continues to find new ways to collaborate for collective impact, like our wastewater disease surveillance work, we recognize one of our primary challenges facing the water sector is workforce development. Being able to recruit, train, and retain a diverse and passionate workforce is critical to meeting any of our goals. That's why WEF is continuing to invest in our best-in-class training resources, like Wastewater Treatment Fundamentals 1 and 2, and just new this month, Wastewater Treatment Fundamentals 3, which are now available in English, Spanish, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. We've been able to expand some of these programs into other languages through strategic partnerships with organizations like ZDHC, which is the textiles manufacturing industry. And we're working with them in Southeast Asia to be able to provide some of these translations. This is something that's critical to their mission, and we're able to provide some of our great training resources with some of their translation capabilities. So finding those types of synergies are going to be really important to us as we move forward. We also continue to focus on increasing the diversity of the water sector through innovative programs like Inflow, where this year we'll have more than 13 universities participating. And we're working with the Louisiana Green Corps this year to deliver STEM Path and Career Tech programming at WEF Tech. As part of these programs, participants will have the opportunity to volunteer at the Community Service Project, take facility tours, attend the Student Design Competition and Job Fair, visit the Opening General Session and Expo floor, and participate in various other technical sessions and panels. Jumped ahead. And we also continue to train and develop our emerging leaders within the water industry through programs like the Water Leadership Institute. I just want to give a shout out to all my fellow WLI alumni. I had the opportunity to be in the inaugural class of this back in 2011, 2012. And this program has really grown and it's gotten very competitive to get into. And it teaches a lot of those soft leadership skills that we don't always get as operators or engineers or some of the other technical professionals in our field. They're really allowing this next generation to step up into those leadership positions. And of course, Operations Challenge. This year, we're going to have 45 teams competing. That's the most ever for New Orleans, and it includes 10 new teams, as well as global participants from companies like, or from countries such as Colombia and Germany. These programs are incredible tools to help us attract, develop, and engage this next generation of the water workforce. But as we bring new people in, we do need to make sure that we're reflecting the communities that we're served, being intentional about growing diversity in the water sector, making everyone feel welcome and included, and helping us all to better understand the equity and environmental justice challenges that we face as a sector. We must integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion into all that we do. Over the past several years, WEF's been working hard on providing tools and resources to help our members better understand, implement, and share these principles. If you visit our website, wef.org/DEI, you'll find information on what we're doing and links to a variety of tools related to D&I. This is just a quick snapshot from that page. And included in there are a series of fact sheets to help foster understanding, provide strategies and talking points when engaging others on these topics. We know this can be hard, especially if it's something you haven't been exposed to before. So some of these tools that we've developed are going to be really critical in helping you communicate this out and expanding this, again, kind of within your committee, within your member association, even within your own organizations. And to further help with that, our own House of Delegates has pulled together a starter kit. And this is a great spot that kind of builds on some of these tools and provides a how-to guide to really get these programs off the ground. You know, I don't think this will be a surprise to any of us on this call, but we're facing a lot of challenges as a water sector right now. Aging infrastructure, population pressures, climate change, which we've gotten a drastic example of down in Florida here this week. And funding limitations. All these are straining our water resources, and they call for sustainable management solutions for all. Resource recovery and moving to a circular water economy must become a cornerstone of facility operation. Producing water for reuse, recovering nutrients, reducing fossil fuel consumption by using the energy in wastewater is something that just has to become fundamental to what we do. I was just having a conversation actually earlier today with some folks inside my own organization about this tension between our core mission of meeting regulatory requirements, providing a safe water environment, protecting public health, and how we can start shifting that into this idea that we need to do even more than that. We really need to focus on this resource recovery, making markets, showing the true value of what we do every day as an industry. WEF's a leader in this transformation. We're helping to benchmark current resource recovery practices through our Renewed Water project, which is being updated again this year, to recognize utilities who are leading the way through programs like the InSmart recognition, where we've partnered with EPA, programs like the Utility of the Future, and of course our WEF awards. What gets recognized gets repeated, and this is something where we really want to be able to measure what we're considering a benchmark, highlight the people that are meeting and exceeding these, and really reward the people that are moving us forward towards a circular water economy. But we're going to start doing even more. So stay tuned as we ramp up efforts in this arena, pushing the envelope and really driving the water sector towards true adoption of the circular water economy. The cornerstone of the circular water economy and resource recovery is, of course, the beneficial reuse of biosolids. WEF is doing a ton of work in this area, led by Maile Lono Ventura, our Director of Sustainable Biosolids Program. MILA is helping to coordinate our regional and national efforts to protect the beneficial reuse of biosolids. We pulled together a group of national experts back in 2019, and this position was something that came out as a huge need to be able to make sure that we're all moving in the right direction. One of the things critical to this mission is effective communications. Recognizing this, WEF released the Biosolids Communications Toolkit. This helps utilities develop and implement public outreach and engagement around biosolids. We also partnered just this year with DC Water and PBS to film an episode of Dennis Quaid's Viewpoint, which will be aired 50 times nationally and 150 times at regional outlets to help the public better understand and respect the role that biosolids play in sustainable water management. And finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible success we've had with advocacy over this past year. Passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, is a once-in-a-generation investment in infrastructure. This is the largest single investment in water infrastructure ever made by the federal government, including almost $30 billion for wastewater and stormwater over the next 5 years. This is due in a large part to the collective action by our grassroots network of water advocates who tirelessly sent letters, emails, and phone calls to their elected officials, letting them know just how important this investment is to our industry, to our country, and to our local communities. If you aren't already, please join the Water Advocates group by scanning the QR code on this slide, or you can visit wef.org/advocacy to sign up. This is a program that is near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, I got my start with government affairs, but it's more than that. It's really easy. The last time one of these calls went through, I actually timed myself. It took me about 15 seconds to go through the whole process. You enter your name, you enter your address and your phone number, and it automatically generates a letter that will be sent to your two senators and your congressman for the district that you live in. Hearing from us as WEF is important, and we're doing that work, but hearing from you as a local constituent is even more important. So with that, I'd really just like to say thank you all for the opportunity to serve as your president over this past year. This has truly been the honor of a lifetime for me to help lead an organization of such passionate, engaged, and frankly, just plain fun people. I look forward to catching up with you all at WEF Tech. And with that, I will turn things over to Keith, although I think I had 10 minutes in there for introductions and getting going, which we didn't need. So I guess I can probably take a couple of questions here if anybody has anything immediately. All right, not seeing anything. I'll turn things over to Keith for the financial update, which I know is what you've all been waiting for.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. That was a great summary. And Kelsey, if you could bring our slides up for us. It's my pleasure again to join you as the WEF treasurer, and I kind of want to highlight also the WEF staff that's involved in the financial aspects of WEF, especially Karen Powderly and David Kuntz. Karen has now stepped into the role of our CFO at WEF, and has been a seamless transition, and we're really thankful for her role there. And it's also been our pleasure, all three of us, to work with the HOD Budget Committee throughout the year. So I know this won't be anything surprising to them, but it's really our great opportunity to provide to you what's been going on this past year, and what we have in exciting plans for next year. Next slide. So for the F22 update, just first of all, talk a little bit about our audit. We have an annual audit at WEF, and the people that serve on that audit committee are Tom Galazensky from Arizona, and Alexi Kendrick from Oklahoma, who are your chair and vice chair of your budget committee. And so those two individuals and myself make up the audit committee. We're happy to report that we had not only a clean financial audit for last year, but also one in which there were not even any adjustments that were made by our audit firm. So a very not only clean, but representative of the fine work that our staff does throughout the year. As Jamie just mentioned, we were pleased to have the return of in-person events last year, not only WEF Tech, but some specialty conferences, especially the new public health conference that was mentioned. And then your 3 WEF Max meetings that were put in place this year as well. To be quite honest, we didn't have quite the return at WEF Tech of Chicago that we were hoping for. If you might remember, there was a little bit of an upturn in the COVID pandemic last year. But we were able to kind of recover from that, from a couple of other credits that we received that our staff looked into, an employee retention credit and forgiveness of our PPP loan, kind of helped to negate any of those losses that we were predicting from WEF Tech. So at the end of the year, we were able to really come out pretty close to what we had budgeted for last year. If you might remember, in the past, we had hoped to have reserves of about 50% of our expenses. That was at a time, though, when we could get insurance for pandemic, for weather-related items. And so after the pandemic occurred and we obviously were able to use that insurance, we took another look at that, and the board approved a policy where we'd like to increase those reserve levels up to about 100%. And so we're on that progress right now. We're ending the year at about 75%. And so we're planning to increase that over the next several years to try to get up to a level where we can be protected in case we do have some other kind of event, especially affect WEF Tech. I'll talk a little bit later also about other revenue sources that we're looking at. The other, I think, exciting program that was restarted this year was your MA grant program. We had funded that back up to the 100,000 level, and that was fully awarded through your HOD budget committee. Tom will speak a little bit more about that later today, but we're happy that we kicked that started again, and you had many more applications than you were able to award. Next slide. So for FY23, just to kind of show you a little bit about this process, back in February, we started with a presentation to your HOD budget committee, the CLC steering committee, and presented not only the process that we go through in setting the budget, but also what some of the priorities are from WEF. And Jamie went through some of those this year. If Tayo is going to talk a little bit more about our strategic plan and other things that will come out of that as well. So once we had those priorities, then the finance committee, which consists of both Tom and Alexi from your budget committee, to propose a budget to the board. And so we met on August 2nd and 3rd this year virtually, and then proposed that budget to the board in mid-August, and they approved the budget later on in August. So not only do we have the participation of your budget committee members there, but as I mentioned earlier, WEF staff and myself participate on all your monthly budget committee calls. So we have that liaison effort. Next slide. So to highlight a couple of things from the budget for this year, we're really pleased to roll out the new strategic plan. You probably maybe heard a little bit that a couple weeks ago. That'll be rolled out today and throughout WEF Tech. We're really excited to be able to invest in that plan. As Jamie mentioned, some of that will be through the circular water economy. Look for a new event that maybe will happen next spring regarding that. We've got continued investment in the DE&I efforts, not just at a WEF level, but even especially at an MA level to help MAs implement some of those things as well. We do have a new edition of Standard Methods coming out this year, as well as a number of other publications. So those help drive not only services, but it'll help drive revenue for WEF as well. And then we're also excited to announce today, and Tom will talk about this a little bit more later, but we've upped the grant program funding this coming year to $125,000. We're really pleased with the breadth of the applications and the different MAs that have submitted grant programs that can be used with other ones. And so we want to keep that program going and increase it as well. Next. I think it's also important to recognize how well the WEF finances are run by our staff. Not only do we track our finances from year to year, but we also track against other associations. These are just two examples that show how our benchmarks track against other associations and how we run a relatively lean and low overhead group. And this really helps us overall. Next slide. I think it's important to note that sometimes we, as a finance committee, we get a little maybe too involved in the numbers. And it's important to remember it's really the programs that we're focusing on here. As Jamie presented earlier, there's a number of programs that we've enhanced. We're also increasing some new programs, especially as you'll hear from Ifatayo, as the strategic plan gets rolled out, and we're investing in that. So what the board tries to do is set priorities on what programs are really needed and desired by our membership. And then it's up to finance to really fund those. We don't take the program or the approach that we cut a program or reduce something because of the financial situation. We really want to look at the priorities and then fund based on that. So it's important to really maintain the programs that we're looking at. And with that, on the next slide, as we look ahead, we've really focused on these items for this coming year. We've invested a significant amount of money in the strategic plan. As Jamie mentioned, the circular water economy that's coming, the workforce development, and especially how our DE&I program it gets involved in that. Our continued involvement in your MA grant program, and then a number of new publications that are coming out that we've really been known for in the past, such as the MOPs and the wastewater treatment fundamentals part 3 and standard methods. So one of those things that we want to be able to do to fund these programs is to have the revenue sources to do that. So we're looking at new revenue sources. We also have a policy in place on if we were going to look at a dues change, how that would be implemented. So we'll be looking at all of those this year as we go through as a finance committee to make sure that we've got the funding sources available to provide the needs of the association. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jamie, I think.
Thanks, Keith. As Keith mentioned, it's been really good to see just how strong we've been able to stay as we've come through the pandemic. I know many of our other water organizations haven't been as fortunate, and it allows us to really make some key investments in making sure that WEF remains relevant and strong as we move into the future. Next, I'd like to invite up Ifatayo Venner, WEF's president-elect, to go through our strategic plan, mission, and vision, and give us a sneak peek into what the next year holds. Iffy?
There we go. All right. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Keith. So I'm Ifatayo Venner. I'm president-elect for about 2 more weeks, I guess. And I just wanted to talk to you all a little bit. I'm sure many of you would have been on our town hall. That would have been in, I think, August at this point. But I think it's worth giving an update again on the strategic plan and where we're at with that. So in August of this year, the board adopted a new strategic plan, which will be launched to the public at WEFTEC. As I said, many of you have seen this already. There were 2 reasons really why we decided to do a complete refresh of our plan. And this has been ongoing over the last probably 14 months or so that we've been working on this. One reason, the last major update that we had done was probably over 10 years ago. And in that time, of course, we've accomplished quite a bit as a federation, and we did modify our strategic objectives over the years to reflect those accomplishments that we had done and some of the new goals that we needed to accomplish. But we really hadn't revisited the mission, the vision, the values, or our critical objectives on our existing plan. And of course, as you all know, especially in the last 2 years or so, the world really has changed quite a bit. Certainly the expectations of our stakeholders bases or our customers have also changed and shifted as the world has shifted. And then secondly, you know, when organizations really have reached maturity, which WEF has been in existence for quite some time already, there is a risk of decline if you don't really continue to check in on your current state and your position within the sector and so on, and then continue to evolve and transform as your sector and your customer base needs you to. So that was really the main driver for us really sort of almost blowing up the plan and starting from scratch. But in developing that plan with the help of our consultant partner, we did a really thorough assessment of WEF's current state and what our position was in this very rapidly changing water sector. And we really wanted to get a deep understanding of, you know, trends, how the sector was evolving, you know, how those trends going to impact WEF, and what was really needed for the sector to move it forward in the way that all of us want to do that. So with all of that information, we also then had several touch points with our membership and folks within the sector, over, I think, 700 or so touch points, whether that be through individual interviews, focus groups, surveys, luminary sessions, and so on, to sort of gather a lot of that information as to also where you were seeing that we needed to take this organization. So putting that all together over the last several months, the board as the strategic planning committee has essentially come up with what you will see as our plan. And I just kind of noted that already. So I would say the first part that I wanted to talk through, which is really the foundation of our plan, is the 4 values that we have that we really want to embody as an organization as we move forward. So the first one is collaboration. WEF has really always played a central role in bringing that water community together, and that really came through from our focus groups and our survey as to the thing that folks most valued in the organization. That we're here as a community to get together, to learn, to share, and to have knowledge and solve water problems. But we also want to make sure that we lead into that and we enhance the collaboration that we're doing with each other, breaking down those silos within our committees, within our work groups, across WEF, you know, between, you know, staff and the board, staff and the HOD and CLC, with COC and HOD. We want to make sure that we're really collaborating more effectively within our groups, but also outside of WEF with other water-related organizations within the water community and sort of beyond that sector. As you talk about, you know, water touches everything. So we want to make sure that we are also collaborating beyond that, beyond what we consider to be our traditional water sector, to all of those that are touched by water, so that we can work together for collective impact. Customer service, again, another thing that we really want to emphasize, which is putting our members and customers at the center of everything that we do and leading our efforts with empathy and in service to each other. That requires us to really understand who our customers and our stakeholders are, or who they should be that aren't. And really considering as we move forward in our work and our efforts within the our various spheres of the water sector and WEF, are we meeting their needs? What do they need? And what are we doing? Is it something that is going to move the needle? Is this something that folks are asking for, or is it just something for us, right? Are we listening and considering the impacts of the decisions that we make or the actions that we take on others within within WEF and again outside? So really wanting to lead with that, the customer at the center. We also want to be bold, right? And that means a lot of things. Some of the words thrown out, we really want to be future focused, growth oriented. We want to disrupt, right? But we also want to be decisive in our decisions, flexible, fearless. We really want to stress that we want to try new things, and new things are what is really going to push the sector in the direction that is needed. So we're really asking everyone to lean into that and be bold in coming up with new ideas and setting WEF as the leader as we take this sector forward. And then again, building on the really great work that has been done over the last several years related to DE&I, we want to make sure again that DE&I is embedded in the culture of this organization, and it is top of mind in everything that we do, right? That's whether it is that we're including folks within our committees and our work groups, and what always considering who is not there and making sure that all of those voices are at the table, but attracting and keeping, bringing in a new diverse workforce into water and into WEF. But as I said, listening and learning, understanding the different perspectives and all of that, it really needs to be embedded in everything that we do. And we're really proud of the work that has been done to date. And I'm sure, and it has definitely been noticed by others within the sector. And so we really want to build upon that as well. All right, as far as our mission, and that really was asking the question, right? What is WEF's reason for being? And this really came from you all as we were talking to you, right? That the purpose of WEF was to unite and connect water professionals and then make our communities a better place. So we want to be that place where people come together to get inspired by each other and by the work that we do, so that you can go out into your communities and continue to do the work that you're doing to essentially achieve human and environmental well-being. So we are leaning into our role as that convener, the one who educates and leads, and we want to be the community that water professionals come to for inspiration, connections, and solutions. Right, and then our vision. Again, this, as we talked to a lot of water professionals, this is the ultimate goal, right, for WEF and for a lot of us that do work in water, that we ultimately maybe want to put ourselves out of business, to have a life free of water challenges, right? And that is the ultimate goal that we keep striving to, and we'll continue to do our work for. That a lot of these water challenges that you see on the news, especially recently, they are not there, and that is for everyone. So that is what is, we heard loud and clear from our members as we were putting this together, and certainly the reason why many of us are here in water. And our plan also has a 3-year outcome statement. Again, it's the question of when we were putting this together, what was the thing that would most contribute to us in the next 3 years to achieving our vision, which was really to amplify the voice of water within the larger community, to make it more clear to everyone on the outside of it, the absolutely vital role that water plays in life itself and a thriving community and economy. I think it's really critical for the water sector to get the investment needed and the people into the water workforce to help us solve those water challenges. So we really have to make that shift from being the sector that traditionally, maybe in the past, hid. And then I think we've evolved to where we talk a lot about the water, but to ourselves a little bit, right? So we're really wanting to amplify those stories of those working in the water sector and the great work we do in the water sector and the needs that we have to solve these water challenges, and how important they are for our global society, essentially, that we solve those problems. And so we want to use WEF's strength, which is the water community, to increase awareness of what we do and why it's so vital that we continue to do it in protecting human health and the environment. So in our, as we move forward, we really want to amplify those stories of water. We're going to ask a lot of you to help us do that, to strengthen, grow our water community, to strengthen it, and then diversify it as well, so that we can continue to do the great and leverage and expand the great work that we're already doing. And then lastly, I'll get into the 3 goals that we have. The first one, again, I alluded to, attracting and developing a diverse and passionate water workforce. I don't know that I need to explain that to folks on this call. Really attract, we absolutely need more water workers to do the work that we do. And what that looks like is changing as the issues that we're facing continue to evolve. We also want to make sure that we are attracting a diverse water workforce as well that allows us to adequately serve the various communities that we are serving across the globe. The second goal that we have is cultivating a purpose-driven community to sustainably solve water challenges for all. And that's really, what can we do internally about the member experience that you have, and how do we maximize, be creative in the programming and the content and whatnot that we're putting together to support our water sector as they do their work. And how do we really amplify the member experience? And when folks say that the thing that they love about WEF is the ability to have a community, how do we enhance that ability to make those connections and do the work the great work, amplify that work that we're doing within WEF already, and in our committees and our work groups and so on and so forth. So that's really our second goal. And our final goal, I believe both Keith and Jamie alluded to that. So in the circular economy, the aim is really to keep our raw resources in use for as long as possible. We want to extract the value from it as much as possible and derive as many benefits from the processing of any byproducts that may be generated. And that's generally the circular economy. So within the circular water economy, we're looking to optimize the water resources and then extracting the value from that source and any wastewater that's generated. So whether that be the water that's already in our wastewater, but also, as we've been doing a lot of work already on resource recovery, nutrient recovery, energy recovery, all of that, leaning into that as an important part of the sustainability of our world. And then reaching out again to partner with other sectors like food and bev, all of those industries that have a stake in water, that are really stakeholders, so that we together can steward this water resource. And so we're really leaning in, again, as you saw in our values, the collaboration. How do we partner with these sectors to enhance the circular water economy? And there'll be a lot more on that coming in the next few years. And as Keith noted, we're looking to have a convening around that and defining what we are looking for with respect to the circular water economy in the coming months. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me? Or if not, I'll pass it off to the next person.
All right. Well, seeing no questions, thank you, Keith. Thank you, Ifatayo, for your presentations here. And that concludes the 2021-2022 WEF Business Meeting. So this meeting is now adjourned, and I believe we are moving right into our 2021-2022 House of Delegates meeting agenda. So I'll turn things back over to Kelsey and Stephen.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie, Keith, and Ifatayo for presenting, especially to Ifatayo, having just survived a hurricane, to be on today is pretty miraculous. So grateful for all of you. Welcome, and this is the call to order for the 2021-2022 WEF HOD meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Donnell. Second.
Thank you. Instead of everybody coming off mute and saying aye, if you could just use the little reactions and raise your hand. Any opposed? You can say nay if you oppose. We'll find those. All right. Now a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from the October 2021 HOD meeting.
So moved.
And a second?
Second, Donnell.
Please vote in the yay by raising your hands. Are there any opposed? All right, motion carries. Do we have Lynn with us?
I can see her on the call, so
Hey, Lynn, I see that you're not on mute and we can't hear you. We'll give Lynn just a few seconds here to see if we can get the audio going. Lynn, you can use the chat too to let us know if there's if we need to call an audible a bit. All right, I'm not sure what the actual Robert's rules are when we can't get the past president to speak. Is it Jamie that has to sub in here?
maybe we can go ahead and have Patty go and give Lynn a chance to get
Okay.
that settled and circle back to that.
All right, we're gonna mix it up then. Patty, are you all set there?
I am ready. So
All right, can you talk to us about the approval of the HOD Nominating Committee's recommendations?
yes. So let me see if I can share and if this is all going to. All right, can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see the actual slides there. You're just gonna go in that mode for us
Hopefully.
rather than presentation mode?
How are we now?
You need to flip the displays. So it's okay. Just up at the top, hit display settings and then flip them.
Display setting. Swap. All right, how are we now?
All set. Looks great.
Whew.
Thank you.
All right. Good thing we're just about back into in-person meetings now that I've almost figured this stuff out. Okay, so this is the 21-22 Nominating Committee. So I was the chair of the committee, and here are the committee members: James Bersani, Jeremy Brashears, Leanne Scott, Mandy Sheeposh, and Ray Vermette. And changes that we implemented for 22-23. We made some minor updates to the applications just to make them easier to fill out, more readable. We reviewed 30 amazing applications. So it was fantastic that we received 30 applications. And so we tried to place everybody on a committee that fit. And if there wasn't a committee that we felt like fit, we reached out to those people and we are going to find them a place to participate. So there are a few of those people that we are going to tap into for other uses. So everybody is going to be involved here. So for our committees coming up this year, we selected, there are 4 delegates at large. So every year there are 4 delegates at large that roll off, and so 4 more that we put on. So this year are 4 delegates at large: Christiana Jergash, Scott Foley, Doug Kobrick, and Valerie Partey. So, and let me start off here first. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing names. Probably the most difficult part of this job, since we had fantastic committee members, is the pronunciation of names in this meeting. So, like I said, apologize if names are mispronounced. So those are our delegates at large for this year coming up. Our WEF nominating subcommittee member is going to be Mark Poling, and he sits on the WEF nominating subcommittee, which is going to select the anything associated with WEF, the trustees, the what's our other person, our president-elect. So yes, so on the WEF committee. Then our budget committee members, we've got Casey Gish, he's going to be the chair, Audrey Harley, Doug Kobrick, Rosaline Noggle, Clint Riley, Michael Sweeney, and Jamie Wallace. Those are our budget committee members. DEI committee is going to be Amy Baker, Jeff Berlin, Haley Goddard, Joe Navas, and Valerie Partey. And our nominating committee, so this is the nominating committee for the House of Delegates. Leanne Scott is going to be the chair, Scott Audit, Bill Davis, Christiana Dragish, Peter Garvey, and Mandy Sheeposh. And our WEF Max committee, Jeff Berlin will be the chair, David Galbraith, Scott Foley, Doug Pike, and Raymond Vermette. And our speaker-elect this year, happy to announce that that's going to be Alexi Kendrick. So congratulations to Alexi, and congratulations to all of our committee members. Thank you very much. Like I said, we had great applicants, and looking forward to a good year.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the slate as presented by Patty?
Move to approve.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor by raising hands. Any opposed by calling it out? Right, thank you, Patty. And I saw Lynn jump back on, so I believe.
I am, yes, I am here. Can you hear me now?
We can, yeah.
All right. Now my only problem is let's see, there we go. Okay. Yes, I have not survived a hurricane, but I have been chased out of a symposium by a fire alarm that's going off at American University, and I'm out in a rather challenging parking lot situation. So, but anyway, hopefully we can, with the help of slides and your good patience, we'll get through this. So if we could get that first slide up, that would be great. But I'm here to share with you the nominating slate for the Board of Trustees for the coming year. And I chair the nominating committee. According to the bylaws, many of you are familiar with this, but according to the WEF bylaws, if we can go to the next slide. Oh dear. Am I going to keep getting an echo? We might need Jamie to take over here. Jamie, I think, okay, can you hear me now? Am I doing all right? Okay, so according to the bylaws, the immediate past president of the Board of Trustees chairs the nominating committee. And that would be me. And then we also had Jamie Eichenberger, the president of the board, who will then be chairing the committee next year. He was on the committee. We also had Diego Rosso, but according to the bylaws, we will always have one other trustee on the nominating committee. So this year that was Diego Rosso. We have two people from the House of Delegates, Donnell Duncan, who was serving in his second year in this role, and Debbie Lewis, who is serving in her first year. And so she will be, she and Diego and Jamie will all be continuing on this committee next year. And so I want to really thank them. It was a great group to work with, and you should feel comfortable knowing that these people represented, I think, the organization well, and really thinking about the future of the organization as they selected nominees. Next slide, please. And so part of the process that we use is we go through a gap analysis, and I won't take you through all the steps, but really trying to identify what are the gaps that we have in the collective board of trustees. Of course, there's characteristics that we want everybody to have, but then there are characteristics that we want the board as a whole to have. And so when we looked at who was rotating off the board and who would be continuing on, we really tried to think about what are some holes that we had that we wanted to be thoughtful about as we recruited and selected the next round of trustees and leadership. And for this year, the priority was, if we could get it, we want to make sure we got somebody with operator experience, especially being a leader in that realm. We were looking also for manufacturing sector experience. We wouldn't have had any of that on the board if we didn't find that in our new cohort. We were also looking for racial diversity. Now, one thing I will mention here is one thing you don't see on this list is gender diversity, and that's because that's certainly an important factor for our board, but we felt that we were that was not a gap for us right now. So that was not something that we necessarily prioritized for this year's efforts. Next slide, please. And so with that, we had 3 openings: 1 for vice president, 2 for trustees. Some years there's also would be a nominee for treasurer, but this year was not one of those. So for vice president, next slide, we had 3 applicants, and we put forward the name of Howard Carter, or not just his name, we put Howard Carter forward as our nominee. Howard, as many of you know, because many of you know Howard because he has served in multiple leadership roles for WEF, including Speaker of the House of Delegates. He comes from Saco, Maine, where he is the director of Water Resources Recovery Department, and has received just about every award you can think of from WEF, and has been on the board of trustees since 2019. He is also a licensed operator in multiple areas with multiple certifications. He's been a leader for WEF's DE&I initiative, serving on our DE&I subcommittee, and anyways, has really exemplary leadership for WEF, and we're very excited to put his name forward to you as the incoming vice president for the WEF Board of Trustees. And with that, I would welcome someone to actually nominate him, and we could take it from there. Steve, even.
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed vocally? Motion carries. Congratulations, Howard.
Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
great.
I'm really honored to help the association move forward, and see most of you in a week or so. Thank you very much.
That's great. It's great to have this. Okay, so now let me move forward with the trustees. And the first trustee, if we want to go to the next slide, the first trustee I'll put forward is that of Stephen Sanders. Stephen, and as well as the next person that I'm going to recommend nominate, is not necessary. He didn't come up through the House of Delegates, but he's got many of you know him because of his strong activities with WEF, especially with operator issues, very active in the state of New York where he lives and works, and also serving on 2 WEF board committees, the DE&I subcommittee and the WEF Tech Advisory Committee. One thing that also really intrigued us about Stephen, in addition to the issues I've mentioned and his really thoughtful background in operations and what it takes, what operators need in today's landscape, but also his experience in strategic leadership and in developing strategic plans for his program where he works at SUNY. We also were excited about the relationships that he has well beyond his region with EPA and with other regulators at broader levels, and we really think that he will be a wonderful representative for WEF and really help us network in some of those important places that where we need our leaders to be representing us. And so with that, I'm very excited to put forward the name of Stephen Sanders as a nominee for the WEF Board of Trustees. And so, Stephen, I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, I'd like a motion for Steve Sanders to be elected to the Board of Trustees.
So moved on.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hands. If there are any opposed, please vocally. Congratulations, Stephen Sanders, on your election to the Board of Trustees.
You know, and let me just say, I'm a little flustered here in my battlefield conditions here. I didn't ask if Stephen is actually present in our audience today, just so if he can say hi. Stephen, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
There you are. Okay.
I'm just extremely grateful, and I look forward to working with all you wonderful individuals and champions of water and facing the challenges that we have to face. And again, just extremely grateful. So thank you very much.
Well, we're so lucky to have you. And with that, let me turn to our second trustee, our nominee. Corey, are you with us today? I know he had some conflicts.
Yep,
oh,
I'm
yay.
here.
All right, Corey, say hello to the folks. So I'm proud to present Corey Williams as our second trustee nominee. Corey lives in Kansas, where he is president and CEO of Smart Cover. And as you can guess from his title, he has a very strong manufacturing background, which we're thrilled to have that experience coming onto the board. But we were also really impressed with the strong relationships that Corey has built across the water sector in people of all kinds of jobs and career paths within the water sector. He also has a really strong demonstrated commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It really came through in the reference checking and the kinds of people that he chose for his references and the way that they spoke about him. And these are not just recent relationships; these are long and deep relationships that we think speak highly to his ability to help WEF be a leader in that area. And then also from his work with WEF, he's been a strong contributor to a number of WEF manuals of practice. So I think within the CLC and some of our technical committees, he's well known. He might not be as well known to our delegates because that's not been his path. But in terms of what we need for the board, we really think that Corey's going to be a wonderful trustee and a great complement to the other 10 that he'll be joining. So with that, I put forward Corey Williams' name as a trustee. And Stephen, I hand it back to you.
Yeah, can I get a motion to approve Corey Williams for the Board of Trustees?
An enthusiastic yes.
Enthusiastic, yes. How about a second? Equally enthusiastic, please.
Second, Donnell.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise hands. And any opposed, please do so vocally. All right, thank you, and congratulations, Corey.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to the House of Delegates and to Stephen Drangsholt for helping us today with this. And of course, to the entire nominating subcommittee that I think most of us are here with you today, Debbie, Donnell, Diego. Diego could not be with us today, I don't think, and Jamie. This is an important ritual that we go through every year. It may seem kind of perfunctory when we come to the House of Delegates, but there's a lot of work and thought that goes in ahead of that. And anyways, I just thank you for your involvement with this and your support of that process. Thank you very much. I'll go back on mute.
Great, thanks, Lynn. Hopefully less challenges there going forward. With that, I'd like to invite Tom Galzeski to come talk with us about the MA grant program and report outs. Tom?
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can all see my screen now. There's slides showing up.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Well, it's great to be here with everybody today to give you a report on or a update from the budget committee and specifically talk about the MA grant program. I really want to acknowledge and thank all of our committee members this year. We had a great committee. We had excellent attendance and great participation and discussions, and a lot of thoughtful discussion and evaluation of all of the MA grant proposals that we received this year. So all these folks did a tremendous job representing the budget committee this year. So just this is the budget committee charge, or what we're supposed to be doing. Again, we, as Keith mentioned, we help work with the finance committee to just make sure that the budget is in keeping with WEF's strategic plan and goals. And then in years when there's funding available or allocated from the board, we administer the MA grant program. These are the committee's deliverables and activities. We've completed each of these items this year. And what I'm going to focus the rest of the discussion today is on the grant program. I'm going to just go through some background information on the program. Hopefully that'll answer some questions that we received about the program throughout the year. Then talk specifically about what happened this year in fiscal year 2022. And then just do a brief look ahead to next year. So basically the program began back in 2019, and funds have been allocated over 3 fiscal years. The initial year 2019, 2020, we had partial funding of the program. Things basically got shut down due to the pandemic. Funding was not available in 2021, but then the program resumed again this past year in 2022. Our annual program budget has been $100,000 to awarding grants. Typically, we do 2 rounds of awards per year, with applications due in January and June, and then awards made in February and July timeframe. As part of the grant award, the MAs receiving grants are required to submit quarterly progress reports. That allows the budget committee to, again, track the progress of those grant funds, and also helps us make the case to the finance committee and to the board of trustees to continue funding the program each year. So those are, if you do receive an MA grant, it's really important that progress reports be submitted. So just to provide some statistics on the program, over the three years the program has been in existence, we received a total of 73 grant applications. The amount requested has come in at just over $800,000 over the life of the program. We've made 28 awards and have distributed just over $260,000 in grant funding. The main takeaway from this slide or this table is just that it's a very competitive process for grants, and there are a lot of very good ideas that are submitted each year by the MAs. So over the life of the program, 39 MAs have applied for these grants. 39 different MAs have applied for these grants. And of the 28 grants that have been awarded, those have gone out to 21 MAs. So we have had a couple of MAs, or a few MAs, that have received 2 grant awards during the life of the program. The grants range in dollar value from $1,500 to just over $25,000. The table there shows kind of the distribution of the grant amounts. About 60% of the grants are under $10,000, and then, but we do have about 40% of the funds that are $10,000 or above, again with a so far, a maximum grant that we've awarded is just over $25,000. As far as what kind of MAs get these grants, WEF has 3 different size classifications for MAs, small, medium, and large. We've had 14 small MAs submit applications, and 10 of those and made 10 awards to small MAs, 20 medium-sized MAs that have received 14 awards, and then 5 large MAs that have received 4 awards. So in each category, there's anywhere from 70 to 80% of awards given to those different size MAs. So it doesn't, you can be a small MA, you can be a large MA, you have a fairly equal opportunity of securing grant funding. So what kind of programs receive grants? There's 3 main categories. First is MA operations, and that's to help MAs with websites or AMS system upgrades, equipment purchases, a hiring process for executive manager or other positions. The second category is seed grants, and that basically assists MAs with initial funding of programs that they then hope to make self-sustaining. Examples include membership campaigns, operations challenge team development, member training programs, DE&I programs, and public awareness and advocacy. And then the third main category is planning and training. That covers staff training, training for your board, delegates, or emerging leaders, as well as DE&I training. So the grants are selected for award based on 5 main criteria. These are the 5 criteria are listed here. Each of these criteria is scored on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how it's addressed in the application. The criteria are kind of fundamental to the program, and it helps awards be fairly consistent from year to year. Obviously, each year the budget committee has new members. New members are changed, or new members participate in the committee each year, and these criteria help provide some consistency over the years in how the applications are scored and ranked. Probably the biggest differentiator among applications is in the criteria is 3, 4, and 5. And I just want to stress that, again, when you're asking for money, budget detail is important. If you just say, I need $5,000, you probably won't score as high as another proposal that shows a breakdown of, if they're also asking for $5,000, how that money is broken down throughout the implementation of the grant. Cost sharing is very important because it allows us to, we have a limited amount of funds to distribute, and when MAs cost share, that allows us to make that funding go further, and it also shows a financial commitment by the MA to the program that they're proposing. And then finally, timeline and schedule detail is also important. Again, it helps if MAs can provide kind of a work breakdown structure to show the actual steps of implementing the grant. That also allows us to help track the grant progress when those progress reports are submitted. One of the things that we started doing this year is, if for MAs that were unsuccessful in their grant proposals, we offered to provide a debrief meeting with them. And we had, I believe, 3 MAs that took us up on that offer. It's beneficial both for the MA and for the budget committee. It allows the MA to get some information and tips on how to improve their application for their next submittal. And then it also provides feedback to the budget committee as to some ways that we can help improve our process as well. So that's the background of the program. Wanted to get into some specifics of what happened this year. We had 2 rounds, 14 grant applications were received in round 1, 19 in round 2, for a total of 33 for this year. We received a funding request just under $319,000. We made 13 awards off of those 33 applications, and we did distribute all of the budgeted funding for this year. I also wanted to just note that 11 of the 33 applications we received were from first-time applicants. So we do you don't have to be a repeat applicant to get selected. And 5 of those 11 applicants received grant awards. So the program is more and more MAs are becoming aware of the program, and there's a high level of interest in this program throughout our member associations. So the types of awards that we made this year, we made 5 awards in the MA operations category. Again, that included website upgrades, strategic plan development, and an executive manager selection and onboarding process. 3 of the grants were seed grants, and those were for training courses for operator certification and development of emerging leader, operator training, and DE&I programs. And then we also had 5 grants in the planning and training categories. And some of the work there was travel assistance for emerging leaders and operators to attend WEF programs, and DE&I training for board and committee leaders, as well as operator training. So those are the general categories. I'm just going to give you 3 examples of the types of grants that were awarded. So under the first one I discuss is that was a grant awarded to the AZ Water Association. This was in the MA operations category. And basically this was to update their website. Website had been created over 10 years ago, and they really wanted to enhance the member experience and provide a more effective tool for their committees. So the amount requested was $5,000. They provided a full 100% match. The work on that is ongoing. Website developer has been selected and page development is underway. They anticipate completion of the grant by the 2nd quarter of next year. The next one is was awarded to the Michigan WEA. This was in the seed grant category. Their grant was to incorporate a DE&I workshop led by a professional speaker into their annual conference. Their grant amount request was for $6,000. They also provided a 100% match of that grant. They completed the work under the grant. They had 45 people attend their workshop. And they are also using some of the funds to incorporate DE&I in their marketing materials and into future leadership retreats. And then 3rd example is from the WEA of South Carolina. This fell into the planning and training category. They wanted to support emerging leader attendance at the South Carolina WEF Max, which was focused on emerging leaders this year. The grant amount they requested was $1,500. They also provided a 100% match. They completed their grant work, and they ended up providing travel assistance for 3 emerging leaders to attend that WEF Max. 2 were from South Carolina, and 1 was from the Clean Water Professionals of Kentucky and Tennessee. So that's just a brief summary of what happened in this past year in 2022. So looking ahead to 2023, Keith kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but we are, the grant program is going to be funded again in 2023, and the Board of Trustees, recognizing the the great amount of interest from MAs in this program. They increased our budget for next year to $125,000, which is great news. For next year, the probable grant application due dates are January 20th of 2023 for round 1 and June 23rd of 2023 for round 2. Those dates will be finalized here by probably by WEF Tech, and they'll be posted to the MA portal on the website. Your contacts for next year, Casey Gish from the Pacific Northwest CWA is going to take over as chair of the committee, and Kelsey Hurst will continue on as the WEF staff person for the committee. If you have any questions at all or need information about the grant program, please contact Kelsey. She's a wealth of information, and she will get back to you very promptly. You can also find more information about the program at the link that's shown there. Again, it's on the MA portal on the WEF website. So just some closing thoughts. For me personally, this has been a very rewarding experience to chair this committee this past year, and to get to review these applications, these grant applications. There's just so much amazing work that are being done by volunteers in the MAs across WEF. Just great programs that help benefit the members, communities, and the water profession. So just encourage everyone to keep doing these great things to transform our tomorrow. And delegates, just please work with your MA leaders and committees to identify ideas and get those applications submitted for grant funds in the coming year. Because as everybody's state lottery will tell you, you can't win if you don't play. So again, get the applications in and have your hard work helped out by WEF with the grant program. So Stephen, that's all I have. I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thanks, Tom. Janelle, did you have a question? Saw your hand up.
No, I didn't. I was voting earlier and never took it off.
All right, no worries. Just thought your arm might be getting tired.
No, not this time.
All right, well, thank you, Tom, so much for chairing that committee. Thanks for all your service in the House of Delegates, always, and look forward to seeing you in a week. With that, we will, I'll take a motion to adjourn the 2021-2022 HOD meeting.
So moved on.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, rolling on to our next event here. So this is the welcome to the 2022-2023 WEF HOD meeting. We have some important things to get through today. This will be predominantly Donnell's meeting, but before we do that, we do have something that I believe is a bit more ceremonial than official, which is the confirmation of the 2022-2023 HOD speaker. So Jamie, you want to take it?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So it is my great pleasure to confirm Donnell Duncan as the 2022-2023 Speaker of the House of Delegates for the Water Environment Federation. Donnell began his service, as so many of us do, at his local member association in Georgia, where he participated in the Georgia Association of Water Professionals, which I learned not to pronounce as GOP when I was there earlier this year, in their leadership academy. Upon graduating from that program, he resurrected the Diversity Committee, which worked to bring diversity and inclusion into their publications, conferences, and awards. And perhaps even more importantly, he did what he does so well, which is develop a motivated and passionate team to carry on his work as he moved on. And moved on he did. Donnell was an integral part of WEF's DE&I task force that provided guidance to the board on where we can best help move the needle on diversity, equity, and inclusion in WEF and in the water sector. This included development of a roadmap that led to the creation of our permanent DE&I board committee, which Donnell helped to co-chair over the last 2 years. During that time, he's been a tireless advocate for DE&I across WEF and the water sector. I was at ACE this year and saw him going over the drinking water side even, and doing a lot of work on that side as well. So really helping to carry this message and the importance of that across our water sector. He helped lead the HOD DE&I work group, instrumental in developing that toolkit that we talked about earlier today, to help roll out programs, our MAs. And he also served with me this year, and I know in the previous year, on WEF's Nominating Committee, where his input and perspective were critical as we really did a major revamp of that process, making sure that it's a little more streamlined and more accessible to all of our members as they look at becoming future leaders within WEF. And maybe most impressive, he managed to do all that while keeping his day job as an associate vice president with Arcadis in Atlanta, where he leads a structural engineering discipline for the South region of Arcadis Water business line. So Donnell, welcome to the esteemed ranks of speakers of the House of Delegates. And I'd like to turn things over to you for approval of the agenda for today's 2022-2023 House of Delegates meeting.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And it is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this amazing body of individuals. So I would like someone to present a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So move.
A second.
Second, Lexi.
Thank you. All the ayes, could you raise your hands? And if you're in opposition, you can let us know. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Welcome to the future. 2022-2023 will be a year like no other in the House of Delegates. A very exciting time. And I'm going to share with you some quick thoughts on what you can expect. The HOD of the future. So we begin with the status quo. Since 2008, the House of Delegates has operated as the deliberative and representational body of WEF. And we're aware that it's done well. We're proud to be a part of this group. So why change now? What's the motivation to make the change at this point in time? Well, some quick thoughts. Number one, we need to improve delegate participation. We're 100 strong, and there's so much that can be done if all of us give the same level of effort on an annual basis within the House of Delegates. Number two, member association needs are changing. What once was driving our member associations in 2008 is quite different in 2022. And number three, WEF has a new strategic plan, which gives us the motivation to take some time to reevaluate how we do what we do as an integral part of this organization. So here's our answer. HOD of the future. Let's talk about the HOD of the future. Number one, the HOD of the future is structured and functions in alignment with the new strategic plan. Number two, the HOD of the future has 100% active delegate participation. And number three, the HOD of the future is relevant, visible, and valued by the WEF national and MA community. So what's the plan? How do we get to this HOD of the future? Well, we're going to have the HOD of the future work group and do a deep dive over the next year into what this revamped HOD will look like. We're going to have a water advocacy work group. It sounds familiar, but it's different from what we've been doing for the last couple of years. Number three, we're going to have a MA strategic plan rollout task force. And number 4, we're going to realign our committees with the new strategic plan. And let's break it down a little bit for you. The HOD of the Future Work Group. This HOD of the Future Work Group will be given the responsibility to align the structure and function of the HOD with the new strategic plan. This group will come up with ideas to help us generate 100% participation from delegates. And this work group will present ideas on how we can restructure and rebrand the HOD to match the future of WEF and WEF member associations. Very exciting opportunity for divergent thinkers who see where we can take this group in the next couple of years to put these ideas on paper and present them to the organization. And we're very excited to have Scott Audit to be the co-chair of this work group and Scott Foley to be the other co-chair. And as they told me last week, we will call them Great Scots. The plan, the Water Advocacy Work Group. So we're going to shift our focus away from solely federal advocacy toward more local and state advocacy. And we're going to turn 3 back-to-back years of advocacy work groups into a permanent HOD committee. So this work group is going to focus on, number 1, gathering best practices or guidance for state and local government outreach from member associations. Number 2, provide guidance on how to leverage federal outreach efforts for state and local benefit. And number 3, focus on the how of advocacy and not the what. How do we do this? Not just what are we advocating for. Excited that the co-chair of this work group will be Christiana Dragash, who will be joined by Peter Garvey to lead this effort for the House. Thank you to both of them. The MA Strategic Plan Rollout Task Force. So 15 delegates for a period of 12 months will strategize how best to connect and communicate WEF's strategic plan with member associations. Very important. What is done at the national level, we want to trickle down and disseminate throughout the member associations. Phase 1, for the first 3 months, this task force will focus on connecting WEF's strategic plan to member associations. How best do we make this plan relevant? How best do we align this plan with our member associations? What about this plan would appeal to our member associations? 3 months. And then phase 2, this group will focus on communicating WEF's strategic plan to member associations in concert with WEF's communication team for the following 9 months. We're excited to have Bill Davis as the task force co-chair, joined by Mandy Shiposh. Very exciting effort that's going to be happening here with this task force, and we're looking forward to the outcomes of this 12-month effort. The plan includes realigning committees with the strategic plan. And it's a simple approach. We're going to ask the question, how can committees within the House of Delegates lead boldly with purpose and agility, focus on our customers through empathy and service, collaborate for collective impact, and integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in all we do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome to the HOD of the future. I now turn it over to our incoming president, Ifitayo Venner.
Thank you, Donnell, and congratulations. Look forward to working with you over the next year. Hey, everyone, again. Ifatayo Venner, President-elect. I'm really honored to take over as president in the next couple of weeks, although I really hope that the next week or two goes a little slower than it has been. You know, I've been a member since I started my career, and I really hadn't heard about the organization. And somebody had said to me, you know, you really need to get involved in this organization. You'll have great fun, and it'll be really good for your career. And certainly that has really turned out to be probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And I'm sure many of you here will tell the same story. But, you know, as I've moved through the committees and certainly onto the board, it has really been an amazing way to contribute, but certainly it's the amazing people and friendships that I have made and seeing all the amazing work that you all do in your communities in a very different way for me often, but impacting, you know, water in your communities has just been really inspiring. Bill, I wish I could. I do have some talents. Art is not one of them. I think it's actually the only subject I've ever failed spectacularly as well. So I appreciate it. I appreciate artistic talent. I do not have any myself. So that's the answer to your question. But I also want to take a moment to thank Lynn, who's going to be outgoing from the board for her service to the organization. And then of course to Jamie, who I've really had the pleasure of working with over the last year as he led us through this strategic plan development. So really appreciate and want to recognize the two of them for their efforts this year as well. As far as my vision, I think it's going to be quite simple. Having just, you know, spent the last year and change working through and adopting our strategic plan. The goal for 2022 to 2023 is really the successful implementation of that plan over the next 3 years. So, you know, everyone really on this call as leaders in the organization has a part to play in that success of that plan. You know, firstly, again, you know, as we're getting set to launch it at WEFTEC, and you're all ambassadors in that, you know, you're all ambassadors in that plan, right? We're going to be providing you with the resources to support your continued understanding of the plan and what that means for the organization, and sharing that plan, you sharing that plan in your particular WEF and water communities. You know, as Donnell had just noted, that there will be a work group within the House to sort of help with that as well. But certainly feel free to reach out if you have any questions again. Again, within your groups, we're expecting, and you know, Donnell probably should have come after me, I guess, but you know, already has sort of, you know, started setting you in that right direction, right? We expect that you all are going to be reviewing the plan as leaders in the organization to understand what that means for you all and the communities that you impact within WEF. You know, how does your group, the current group, work and align with the plan? How can we shift to contribute to the achievement of our goals and embodying those values? You know, really asking yourselves the question, right? What can we do more of? What should we be doing less of? And, you know, Stephen and Amy have thoughtfully put together a joint exercise that will be at WEFTEC to really get you started in that line of thinking. But there's going to be work to be done, you know, over the course of the year to sort of get in alignment with that plan. So, you know, really asking for you all to help us move this forward as the leaders that you are. So the other thing, and I'm going to be stressing this to the board, as sometimes uncomfortable as it may be, we don't get better until we, you know, stretch ourselves a little, really considering that communication aspect, right? Within your community, but also with outside of the WEF and water community, sharing your water stories, the great work that you're doing, but also just what are you doing amongst each other? Like sometimes we notice that we tend to know what we're doing, but we aren't necessarily, as we get busy collaborating or sharing that, what we're doing among the various committees or work groups, so that we can collaborate and, you know, probably have a stronger product together. So really, you know, leaning into communicating more and letting folks know what it is that we are doing, whether within WEF, outside of WEF, et cetera. At WEFTEC, there will be ambassadors going around asking folks to share their water stories. So please, if you see them, please volunteer. But also, again, as I'll be asking the board and asking you all to, get out there, right? On LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those things that, sometimes seem a little scary, but it's really important that we share the great work that is being done within our groups, so that all of the folks that can benefit are aware, but also that there's folks who become more aware of the organization and what we are doing so that they can participate in that, and seeing the very many faces of the folks in our sector and all of the great work that you're doing. We know you're doing it, but if you're not out there sharing with it as much, it's just not as known. So I'm really asking folks to lean into sharing, or as we have, sharing the stories, storytelling. Stephen D is a big proponent of that, and has really been also trying to push us in that direction. And so we're really leaning into that. I think the other thing that I want to make sure that we continue to do is that we really continue the great strides that we've made in as far as DEI and bringing more people into the WEF umbrella. Really looking again to continue seeing how we capture more of those voices and perspectives that are critical to the work that we do in all of the things that we do, so that we can continue to do great work in solving water challenges for all. And so we'll be, amplifying, and that's certainly something that's near and dear to my heart. I've really been proud of the work that we've all done over the last 3 or 4 years on amplifying DEI, whether within WEF and within the water workforce. And so, and then really lastly, again, taking note, the foundation of that plan, embodying those 4 values and what that means, because certainly at the core, it's people who do this work, whether in WEF and for water, and we're doing it for people. And so it's really important for us to treat them as such and understand the importance that I think we all do of the work that we do, but collaborate and remember who is at the center of the work that we're doing at all times, so that we are delivering and meeting their needs. But otherwise, I really, really look forward to working with you all in the coming year and seeing you all at WEF Tech. If you see me, say hi. I'm probably running around with a headless chicken or something, but I'm super, super excited to see all of you, and really excited. It's been really nice to see the numbers getting up there. So it looks like we'll have a grand time in New Orleans. And now, of course, my internet connection is unstable. So hopefully you heard, I'm blaming Hurricane Ian for that one. So.
Thank you very much, Ifitayo. It is an honor for us to have you here, and we're excited about what the new year will look like under your leadership. And as we're wrapping this up, I do want to give special thanks to my predecessor, Stephen. Stephen has mentored me throughout this year. He's been very open and honest, very direct. It's been a pleasure to serve under Stephen and take his guidance and direction, and to learn what it takes to lead the House of Delegates. And I do appreciate how Stephen and his predecessor, Nikita, have worked together to create some level of continuity within the House of Delegates, so that we can come up with plans that last beyond 1 year, so that we can actually get results that will change the trajectory of our part of the organization. And the intent is to continue that tradition of each House of Delegate speaker mentoring the next House of Delegate speaker, to ensure that we're always going in a positive direction. So we are excited about our path forward, and we will continue to be revolutionary in our thinking, be divergent in our approach, so that we can change with the organization, change with the MEs, change with the industry, and always be relevant and important to what's taking place around this beautiful industry. So with that, I would invite a motion to adjourn 18 minutes early. What a beautiful way to start. Who would like to give that motion?
So moved.
And who would like to second that?
Second.
And who approves that we adjourn today's gathering? Anybody wants to keep going? Anybody against the adjournment? All right. Hearing none, the ayes have it. You are adjourned. Welcome to the new year. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.